that means the implications of him losing is something he needs to avoid at all costs. The efforts that he and many of his supporters will take to avoid that, and maybe even to interfere with that, are far greater than they would have been in 2020 or in 2016. And certainly the impact, if Biden wins, of Trump then going to jail and the government taking that action against him, after you will have heard the entire Republican Party saying that these cases are fake and they're politicized and they're trumped up and they're a witch hunt. And they will say that because they will all be loyal to and endorsing Trump, has the potential to have far more disruption from saying that the election was rigged. So assuming it's not a massive landslide where you can't get away with saying that, Trump would still say it, but that you can't, it doesn't make sense. Then, I do think there's a much greater likelihood that you will have civil disobedience, social instability, violence in a lot of red states, in a lot of red cities, and unwillingness to accept a Biden administration as legitimate president in 2025. I think that's a very big and real possibility. Yeah, I think, first of all, I think the global challenges are much greater than the domestic ones. So you mentioned the point, barring an economic unforeseen issue in the U.S. Performance of the U.S. economy is actually quite strong right now. Now, people don't necessarily feel that way because the leading indicator that determines how you feel about the economy in the U.S. is what your political affiliation is, which is senseless, but is true. And that gets to the problem of democracy, the completely different information environments. But you certainly do not have people locked down under the pandemic. You certainly do not have an economy that is in crisis. But other economies around the world are going to get hit very badly by this. That is for me a sign of a system that is deeply sclerotic, that is unrepresentative. It's not completely unfunctional. And partially because we're so wealthy and we have so much entrepreneurship and we're in such a wonderful location geographically and we have so many natural resources. I mean, there's so many things that America has going for it that you can tolerate a lot of things that are really broken in your political system, and the country can still work. But honestly, is America's political system in crisis? Yes. I think it is. It is inconceivable to me that Biden would materially reduce support for Israel. U.S. supports about 12% of Israel's defense spend in peacetime. So it's important, but it's not existential. Biden is a pro-Zionist and has been for decades. So, I mean, he's personally very committed to the state of Israel. Though he can't stand Netanyahu, that's a different story. There is a lot of reason for the U.S. to have that relationship that has nothing to do with this war. Intelligence sharing, for example, that's very important, and engaging in mutual efforts against would-be terrorist organizations, rogues, and the rest. I mean, Israel is not an unuseful ally to the United States. It's not all take. But you are right. That the young people in the United States are much more strongly supporting the Palestinian cause, and that the Democrats are more inclined to support the Palestinians, not Hamas, but the Palestinians, than they are to support Israel. And that is new. And Biden is losing support, especially among Arab Americans, voters in states like Ohio and Michigan and Pennsylvania. And that really matters because in some of those states, the support he has lost is greater than the margin of victory he had in 2020, just from that constituency. And I cannot, I mean, the fact, everything I just told you does not compare. These are not, apples and apples we're talking about. I mean, you've got a guy, the former president, that tried to overturn a free and fair election. That's foundational to American democracy. And in any well-functioning democracy, if that guy is trying to run for president and looks like he's going to win, that should be the number one issue you're discussing, right? Because that's a bigger deal than anything else, bigger deal than the economy, It's a bigger deal than the border. It's a bigger deal than abortion. It is literally the biggest deal in a well-functioning democracy. There's only one problem, and that is that the United States is not a well-functioning democracy. So it is not the biggest deal because people don't think it's the biggest deal. That's a problem.
I love it, man. Thank you so much for taking the time. Everybody, if you have not already, be sure to subscribe. And until next time, my friends, be legendary. Take care. Peace.
If you like this conversation, check out this episode to learn more.